What's wrong with wanting to be rich? I said, there's nothing wrong with it. It's the why. I can be absolutely in bliss and joy in the present moment and grateful for everything I have, in the same breath know that I'm here to do more.
When did you drop into this more Ram Dassian, like seeing the world differently?
It actually gets me emotional. My brother calls me up. You can't come home. The police are waiting for you. Ended up in a crazy high-speed chase. They threw me in the back of the cop car, and I was high and drunk at the time. And I woke up the next day in a jail cell. Just full on. The whole place goes off. Guards rush in, grab me, and then they throw us in this place called The Hole. Solitary confinement. And you're in there 23 and a half hours a day. I was there for 3 days. The door opens and it's Brian, this guard. And we sit down and he just pulls up a chair in front of me and he looks at me and he goes, "What are you doing? You need to get out of here." I was so confused. Why is he telling me this? He saw something in me that I didn't even know was there. And I ended up getting released to a rehab center. One of the cool things about it is that all the staff are ex-drug addicts. Guess what I learned at 16, 17? Get advice from people who've been there. How's that helped me in my business? It's been everything. I get out and I discover this little thing called the internet. This is 97. Built and sold multiple software companies, invested in over 100 software companies. Every person, I don't care who you are, in the right context, in the right frequency, you are at least available to be given something that could change fundamentally your life forever. It could be a song, it could be a book, it could be a viral TikTok video, it could be an introduction to a person. It makes no sense. It could be a bro.
So you're in town to promote your book, but you've also got some other things going on.
Yeah, I've got my, I do 2 big groups. I have my SaaS Academy Intensive, which is hundreds of software CEOs. So we get together 3 times a year. We bring in the world's top software folks from product engineering and we kind of pour into them. And then I do a smaller group at the end of the week, which is my high-level mastermind for software CEOs. That's less about the mechanics of building a software company and more about like, who do you want to become?
Yeah.
That's my favorite. That's actually the work I love doing. I call it the chocolate broccoli. So they come for the chocolate, which is how do I make more money in my software business?
Yeah.
But what they really need is, so it's what they want versus what they need.
So when these guys come in, right, you get in the kind of the smaller group, what do you see is generally the obstacles for them that they're just not seeing that you're able to kind of unlock for them?
All of it. I feel like you're going to get this, Cal. You get this. It's the addiction to distractions. Look, and I wrote the book. I wrote the book on how to do more. Like, I get that. I was talking to Noah Kagan this morning. We were doing a hike and, he asked me that same question. I said, look, I wrote that book on purpose because I wanted to show people how to build a business they don't grow to hate, because they need to create the space so they can actually start the work. And when I say the work, I'm talking like Katie Byron work, like all caps, the work.
Damn.
Oh yeah.
I love her work.
Oh yeah. I'm very woo, but people think I'm a software left brain systems guy. Yeah. And I am, but I can go deep. So they come to me because they want to get more. And then it's like, okay, now let's talk about why we're doing this all in the first place. That's the problem. Like, most of them think it's about achievement, possessions, recognition. And I'm like, how about we get to the place you want to feel today? You can still do all that other stuff, but from a different energy.
That's so funny. Well, yeah. I mean, it's not surprising you're here. I mean, this is like why I started the podcast, because I was definitely kind of on that track of achievement and success and all those things. And what was interesting is as I started to recognize this other path, there was a part of me that tried to shun that, right? And it wasn't until I was able to really marry the two. And I love the kind of the structure of the resume virtues and the eulogy virtues, right? So the resume, like what we do to create wealth and do these things, the things that are, make us hireable. And then the eulogy virtues are the ones, these parts of us that we want people to talk about at our funeral.
Yeah.
It's like, so how do we
beautiful frame,
bring those two together? And I think that's really the dance I found myself in. And there's times when I'm skewed one way versus the other, and it's okay. That's the journey. It's the awareness of it and how to come back to the middle. So I love that you're bringing so much of that to these guys who it's got to be so foreign to.
This is what's funny is Noah asked me this. He goes, well, what's wrong with wanting to be rich? I said, there's nothing wrong with it. It's the why, right? I said, have you ever considered this? Billionaires want to be Buddhists, but Buddhists do not want to be billionaires. Think about that. He's like, what do you mean? I go, dude, you're allowed. In my coach, I work with a guy, Ed Milet, and we talk about, he calls it blissfully dissatisfied. I can be absolutely in bliss and joy in the present moment and grateful for everything I have, in the same breath know that I'm here to do more, that I can become more, that I can create more, that I can experience this world in a completely different lens. Oh, and by the way, if you do that, it turns out life is more magical. So like, one time I was coaching a woman and she was like 6-7 million in revenue. It's like, what's the goal? And she's like, 100 million exit. I said, by when? She said, 5 years. I said, cool, no problem. Why? She goes, so I can tell them all F you. I said, who? She goes, any person that's ever doubted me, all of my family members, all those people. I said, cool. I said, can you Google what percent of entrepreneurs, female founded, 6-7 million in revenue? Like what percentage in the world of entrepreneurship you're at? 0.02%. What are you waiting for? And she got super emotional. It makes me emotional just telling the story because she got it. She got it. There's no place to get to.
Yeah.
And I said, now that you realize this, let's do some fun stuff. Like let's create from that place, right? It's the creativity versus the competition. Let's play with this. What do you truly feel called to do? I mean, you've already made it. Can we just acknowledge that? Like you've gotten to that place. You just haven't worked through the emotions of allowing yourself to feel what you were hoping at some point you'll feel. And anybody that's ever chased the white rabbit around that track and they finally catch it, they go, oh shit, it's not it. I mean, I was interviewing Toby from Shopify, the founder, and he's an old friend. And the first question I asked him on my podcast, I said, what's it like the day you became a billionaire? What was it like? Because everybody's like, I want to be a billionaire these days. It's not cool enough to be a millionaire anymore.
I know, back in the day.
Unless you're going for a B.
Back when I was younger.
Yeah, no, it's like billion is nothing. And he goes, the sky didn't part. The trumpets didn't trump. Nothing changed. And I was like, cool. Now everybody knows. Let's get back. You know what I mean? So that's the work that I love to do. But at the same time, for them to do it, they have to create the space. That's why buying back your time was such an important concept. But, I think Ram Dass said it. He said, we spend the first half of our lives becoming somebody and then the second half of our lives becoming nobody. So that's just the path. So I meet I work out with this 17-year-old kid named Josh every Sunday. It's kind of like open workout. Let's go to the gym. And he was asking me all these heady questions about achievement and success and what would you do? And I love it because I could feel that young desire. He's hungry, he's motivated. And I said, Josh, I'm going to tell you now, but it's going to take you 20 years to figure it out. And you're going to go on the journey and that's exactly what you're meant to do. And I don't want to stop you, but you're going to realize one day looking back at all these questions you've been asking me that that's not the point. But go be in it. Go get anxious. Go.
Yeah. Because you did it.
Yes, we all do it. And I mean, I did
it. I've done it. I'm doing it. And it's, you can impart the wisdom, but it's until people have their own life experience. And then it's like, that's when it lands, but you have to go through it.
I just want to plant the seed. I just want awareness. Like, hey, there may be a different way. Now you have an awareness. Do what you want with it.
Yeah, it's so interesting too when you think about. So often we get so centered on this goal, 100 million exit, 5 years, and everything else falls away. All the other opportunities and the doorways and the path to true fulfillment and joy in that experience. And so I think awakening people to that. I mean, what a gift that is. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I have already done it. And I think I've come up against that a lot in my own life. Even as I started to wake up, I find myself in these periods of I haven't done enough. And it's, just being able to zoom out and take a look at the kind of the whole catalog and the journey of, you grew up in Moncton, New Brunswick.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
I grew up in small town Maine.
No way. What part?
Small town called Winthrop, about an hour.
I've seen Winthrop on the maps when I'm driving.
Yeah. But I actually, when I was...
It's part of the same, like if you grew up in Maine, New Brunswick, it's like pretty much the forest just goes past the border. It's the same.
I went to Moncton in high school to play in a hockey tournament. Stayed with some family.
Hockey. Yeah, you did a bill.
Everybody there fucking smoked cigarettes. Yeah. I couldn't believe 100%.
It. They're smokers and fishermen.
Yes.
Yeah, go Moncton. It's a hockey. There's a lot of billet families. They just have the kids in. It's like it's a pilgrimage. Like we have all my friends play. I'm the only Canadian.
I was going to ask you.
I never played hockey.
With your size.
I know. Fuck. I get it all the time. I was
thank God
busy.
You didn't play hockey because who knows?
I could have done well. But I just got in trouble, man. That was my thing.
I want to talk about that because I think, anyone's story, it's really important to talk about, their beginnings and the challenges, right? Which are gifts, but we don't see them that way. I'm sure you didn't see it at the time, but you had, I believe, had some foster care, certainly in the prison system. Yeah. And you were going down a pretty dark road.
I was, I think what happened is,
and I know you've told this story 1,000 times.
I don't mind sharing it because every time with the person, I always ask my heart, like, what part do you want to talk more about today? Like, that's the cool part. There's stuff I've never shared, right? Not that I don't want to, it's just don't think of it. What happened, I think was, I also believe in I think we're all here to do some work, and I was here to do some work. I didn't know it at the time, as you mentioned.
By the way, just an aside, when did you kind of drop into this more Ram Dassian, like seeing the world differently? It just happened.
It actually gets me emotional thinking about it. I just believe, I think God was always there. That's why I'm feeling this right now, because like everything in my life happened so beautifully perfect that it doesn't even make sense. Like I'll tell you what I went through, but it doesn't make sense. Dude, this doesn't make sense. I'm like every day. Yesterday I was flying here and John Maxwell, leadership.
Yeah.
The goated 52 years of leadership inspired me when I was in my 20s. We talked for 45 minutes. How is this real? I grew up in Moncton, New Brunswick. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I had a lot of energy as a kid. Got diagnosed with ADHD when I was 11. And it just, my mom was an alcoholic. I grew up in a pretty challenging environment. I'm second oldest of 4. So I had a lot of siblings around. And dude, we were wild. But I don't know if I was more wild than, Texas kids on a farm. Like we just did crazy stuff, right? We would, dirt bike and smoke cigarettes too. My little brother started smoking when he was 11. Maybe even or earlier. I remember one time he got busted. He was hiding behind the curtain in our house. So you got to understand, in the house, behind the curtain, smoking my mom's cigarettes. He's Benson and Hedges Deluxe. Okay. They're like
long,
mini,
the 120s.
The darts. Yeah. It's like, and he's 10 maybe. And he's like, my mom like pulled the curtain back and he's just like shaved head, just looked rough. And she's like, what are you doing? You could have burned the house down. And he didn't even get in trouble. Like that was just what we did. We built tree forts. We, in the wintertime, we built these massive snow forts that were super unsafe. One time the whole thing fell in on us because we put a long electric cable and we heated it with hair dryers. So we're in this like massive snow thing we built. And the whole ceiling falls down on us, but it's heavy, wet snow. It almost like it could have killed us or electrocuted us. It was just the stuff we did was bananas. But in many ways, when I look back at that period, the freedom to explore and to create, and me and my brothers were always entrepreneurial. Just we didn't do anything. It was a lot of it was illegal. Yeah, and that's what happened to me. I got introduced to drugs when I was about 13. My parents got divorced, and it's just emotionally I didn't want to feel. That's what happened. People go, what was your drug of choice? Not feeling. How's that? I just didn't like myself. I felt like I was a bad kid. I felt like there was something wrong with me. My parents divorced in many ways for a long time. I thought it was my fault just because I'd gotten in trouble with the law and taken out of my home, put into foster care, group homes. I live with guys. I was 12 when I got put in a group home with 16, 17-year-old men teaching me stuff. Yeah. No 12-year-old should have been learning. So I ended up in jail first time. I was actually talking to my mom about this yesterday. It's so funny how people don't remember. I said, Mom, how many times have I been to jail? She goes, well, that one time. And then I was like, Mom, I've been twice. She's like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, that's not something you kind of, at least I didn't kind of forget. Yeah. But I'm texting her and she's like, oh yeah, you're right. You went to the same place and then you went back again and da 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 da. But yeah, my whole life just came to a complete halt. I ended up went to jail the first time. And I did 6 weeks during the summer. So the judge said, hey, go do good in school and I'll be lenient on you. That judge lied. I went and did good in school. And in June, he said, cool, sentence you all summer going to prison. I was like, Judge McKee, I'll never forget him. Okay. And he got me. So anyways, but when I get out, I remember I'm going to change my life. I'm going to change the friends I was hanging out with. I'm going to get into sports. I'm going to maybe join hockey. I don't know. Like I was a skateboarding drug addict. Like I'm going to do something different. I lasted 12 hours back at it. I remember that night, it's 3 a.m. and I'm like, do you not, I remember having this drunken conversation with myself of like, you couldn't even last a day. And things spiraled out of that. After that, that was like a year of just craziness. My buddy Stefan, man, my mom, bless her heart, I talk to her every week, but she didn't know how to deal with us. And, she had her own demons. And one of my best friends at the time, this kid, Stefan, he had a lawn care route. Okay. Essentially, he stole everybody's money. He said, I'm going to mow your lawn for the summer. They all paid him. Yeah. No. He shows up at my house with $5,000 cash. We're 15.
Holy shit.
We wasted $5,000 in 2 weeks. Like we're talking the drugs, the drinking, the partying. It was like brain cells got burnt like nonstop. And that really set me down just we didn't go to school. And he lived in my mom let him live with us. Right. And his mom's wondering where he's at. My mom never thought of calling his mom. And there was a lot of like just weird decisions. And what happened was almost a year after that. So I'm 16 and my brother calls me up and he says, you can't come home. The police are waiting for you. So I decide to steal a car to go to Montreal. I had an uncle that lived there and I just figured I just got to get out of this city. It's not working for me, obviously. And along that way, I was drunk and high and I had a handbag sitting next to me with a gun in it. Because I said, if the cops stopped me, I was going to pull the gun and let them take my life. And I pulled over off the highway to get some gas. Routine roadblock. Ended up in a crazy high-speed chase. I could have killed myself just in the high-speed chase, running red lights, ended up in this neighborhood. And I saw a house with an open door, like a garage door. I probably watched too many car movies.
Sure.
I was like, I'll just hide in the garage door and close it.
Like, by the way, being in I've never been in I've gone fast on a car.
Dude, I asked the team when I came here, I said, does he have side-by-sides? Because I'm going to show him how to drive it. Do you have side-by-sides here?
No.
You have the property for it.
I do.
Anyways, I'll show you. I'm a bit of a drifter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We have some fun.
My son, who's 18, loves to, I don't think he's probably drifted in his car, but his
18.
buddies all get in accidents when they drift. So I'm like, just don't fucking do that, please.
No lampposts, big parking lot, a little bit of rain. Call it a day. Have some fun.
Yeah.
So,
but what was that feeling like? Were you terrified or was it just like you were on another plane? Like this is not happening and I'm just going for it.
It's tough to remember, but there's a part of me that one part I was scared because I also knew what it could mean.
Yeah.
And the other part was kind of happy that it was done. And when I pulled into the driveway, I ended up smashing into the house and I went for the gun. And I remember it was in this backpack, this like old canvas backpack, and it got stuck in the string of the head of it between the seats. I kept pulling on it and pulling on it. For whatever reason, it got stuck. So the cops opened the door and just like, literally, I wasn't wearing seatbelts. I like smashed my head against this, you know what I mean? Like the whole thing, airbags went off and they just grabbed me and like they weren't nice about it, nor should they. I didn't blame them, but I didn't touch the ground. I was in the air floating across the front yard. And while I was in the air, they were frisking me and cleaning me out. And then they threw me in the back of the cop car. And I was high and drunk at the time. And I woke up the next day in a jail cell wondering what my life was going to look like. And this is where I had a conversation with God. But I didn't know God the way I know him today. See, that's the thing. Like, I'll tell you what I said. And I just said, like, dude, if you're real, I could use some help right now. I don't know what my life's going to look like, and there was no grand plan. It was like, I will be good. I'll not break the law. I'll finish school. Like, just help me out. And I didn't believe him. I didn't even know if he was listening. I ended up got sentenced to almost 2 years. So it was and because of the severity of my background and the other crimes I had done, I'd been already in jail. They put me in an adult prison. They had a juvenile youth center. And that was like step one if I wanted to prove that I was willing to change my life so that I could be released into a rehab center and then kind of keep the process going. And dude, there's been some incredible people that showed up into my life at the perfect timing. And I was reading the Bible. I can't read. I didn't understand any of it.
Yeah.
It's just so weird. I'm like reading this stuff in these little thin pages. Like, just remember, dude, we would use it to roll cigarettes. That's how crazy it was. Like we would do the stuff that in prison, there's this thing called fishing. You roll a cigarette and then you throw a line down with a ketchup string. You flick it down the hallway. And then the other guys use like cardboard from like the edge of a cardboard box from a game, and they'll fish it in their cell. And we're passing cigarettes back and forth down the hall. The guards can't see it because they're down in the guard unit and they can't see like the corner of it's just the stuff that I experienced. Like in many ways, it's like watching a movie. But today I get to work with those kids. Those kids are my favorite people in the world. Mm-hmm. I love them.
Get them.
Dude, I'll sit there with them. We'll talk. And I get it. Their psychology, their belief, their mindset, it's just not there yet. But it's like I've got this giddy secret I want to tell them, but I can't tell them because it's so crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm there for it.
Yeah.
I'm so there for it. Yeah. But I mean, that's what happened. I just had some people show up and breathe belief in me that I definitely didn't have.
Well, there's a part in your story with the prison guard, Brian, that I've heard you talk about. And yeah, I'd love for you to kind of share that because it reminds me, I was just away in South Africa, talk about tribe. Friend turned 40. He invited 12 of us to join him on a kind of 4-day journey, kind of hiking expedition on the east coast of Africa. And during one of these moments, we were kind of sharing, reflecting what it is about Boyd that we love. And when I have heard you speak about Brian, this came to mind. It's to know Boyd is to be known. Right?
I want to know Boyd.
Yeah, you will. You'll get to know
That's
Boyd.
Good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But Brian saw you, saw things in you that you didn't see, and that certainly others weren't sharing if they did see it.
It was an interesting moment. So what happened was, every day they would let us out of our cells to eat because we were kids. The adults actually ate in their cells for the most part, but we're having breakfast and, there's like, I think 12 of us at this, table, and they have coffee, and coffee is one of those things in prison as a teenager, like it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I grabbed the like plastic thermos thing, emptied out my cup. I finished it and I put it down. Then there was this kid named Kirk. And Kirk, he grew up in a like in St. John, New Brunswick, which is known for like the gangs, a little different than Moncton.
Okay.
And he was small though, but Kirk was one of those kids. I don't know if you in high school you had a buddy that had like an 8-pack. Like he was a muscle. Like he had literally little like muscles everywhere, but he was 15.
Yeah.
And he goes for the coffee, he goes to pour it and it's empty. And he just goes, "Who's the goof that drank the rest of the coffee?" In prison, there's certain things that you just know. And Kirk and I and everybody saw me do it. So I had to step up and I said, "I did. What are you going to do about it?" Just full on. Like the whole place goes off. Guards rush in, grab me, grab Kirk, kind of break everything up. And literally just same deals. They just walked us down the hallway, hand and feet. Mm. And then they throw us in this place called the Hole, solitary confinement. Mm. And I'll tell you, man, they strip you down to your underwear and you're in there 23 and a half hours a day. Cement, nothing, no mattress, stainless steel toilet and sink, one combo deal. And when they do let you out, it's in this fenced roof, brick 4x4, 10x10 room. Mm. That's it. That's what you get. And they don't tell you how long you're going to be there. It's kind of how they mess with you. So I was there for 3 days with my thoughts. Mm-hmm. No books, no nothing. Lights on. Don't even know what time of day it is. It's actually inhumane, I think. And on the third day, the door opens and it's Brian, this guard. And Brian had been, I think he'd worked there for about a decade at this point. But he was like one of those cool guards. A lot of the inmates, we don't like guards.
Yeah.
But he was one of those guys where if, you respected him and followed the rules, he'd look the other way if you want to grab a second dessert. Or if he saw you, moving some stuff around with your buddies, he wouldn't say much. As long as you were respectful. If you were a goof or a ding dong, hey, he had an issue. He just opens the door and he just shakes his head. He's disappointed. And I felt so shameful. And he goes, "Come with me." So I get up and gives me my clothes. I get dressed and I'm following back down towards the guard to the cell blocks. And as we're walking down the hallway, there's places you're allowed to walk and you're not allowed to walk. And we go past the door that goes into the cell block. The next door is the guard unit. We're not allowed in the guard unit. Nobody's allowed in the guard unit. Guard, legit, if you go in there, you'll get shot. It's just, there's just certain places you're not allowed to go. And even I'd never been past the 3 feet past the door.
Wow.
Because that's a different cell block. That's not ours. Mm. So he opens the door and he says, "Come on in." And I was like, uh-oh. I didn't know what was going on. And we walk in and he asked me to sit down and I go and I sit down kind of in the corner. There was a chair sitting there. And behind me, it's the first time I've ever been in this room. And it's like the other side of the one-way mirror. Mm. So I'm seeing kind of how do adults live? I'm like, oh, this is cool in here. And I didn't realize you could see over there. And I look at all the cameras and stuff. And we sit down and he just pulls up a chair in front of me and he looks at me and he goes, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Where?" He goes, "Here in this place." I said, "Well, I stole a car and I had guns and drugs." And he goes, "No." He goes, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "The fight with Kirk?" And he's like, "No, Dan, not that." He goes, "I see you every day. Do your homework. Stay out of it. Stick to yourself. And I don't get it. If nobody's ever told you this, Dan, you don't belong here. You don't belong here, man. I've been here for a long time and I've seen a lot of kids and you make no sense to me. You're not one of them. You need to get out of here." I was so confused. I remember I was just it was why is he telling me this? Why is he doing this? He's not my caseworker. He's not a social worker. Why is he saying this? And he's just like, "You got to get out of here. Stick to your," you know what I mean? And I just remember I just broke down. I was emotional because I don't know if it was the first time that anybody ever said that to me, but he saw something in me that I didn't even know was there, let alone if somebody would have said it, I definitely wouldn't have believed it. But there was just something about who he was in that moment for him to do that spoke right through all of the doubt and made me feel. And everything shifted. That was like the seed, the mustard seed of like, well, maybe I'm not the bad kid. I'm not the kid that has to hide in the woods, play with his neighbors because his parents won't let him. Maybe I'm not the kid that's always in trouble. Maybe I'm not the kid that's a drug addict. Maybe I'm not. And like, I just kept pulling on that string, and it took me a few months to kind of to show everybody that I was serious. And I ended up getting released to a rehab center. Remember the day I got let go, my dad came to pick me up in court. He wanted to drive me. He asked the judge that sent me away the first time, Judge McKee. Judge McKee. Fun fact, I found Judge McKee years later.
You did?
Yeah. I shook his hand.
Yeah. How did that feel?
He knew what I needed to go through to be serious. And I thought the whole time, what a fucker. And he didn't remember me. And I just shook my hand. He was a little dude too. It was so funny because I'm 6'3", I'm big.
You're a big fella.
Okay.
You're bigger than when I met you. I was like, he's a big dude.
He might be 5'4". Judge McKee, like little, and he was old. And I was just like so mad at him. And I went up to him and I shook his hand and I said, thank you. Thank you for understanding what I was going through, what I needed, where I needed to be, because you didn't let me. It could have been easy for him. My parents were begging him. Everybody was begging him. Hey, just let him go straight to Portage, this place that saved my life. He's like, no, you got to go. You got to go show me. And my dad was the one that once the judge released me into essentially closed custody with Portage, he got permission to drive me, and we drove for 2 hours to this crazy place, man, on a lake in the middle of nowhere. It's like, they built it there. It's an old church camp, and they built it there because if you think you're running away, it ain't happening. Because everybody that lives on this long road, if you're a kid hitchhiking, they know where you came from. Oh, you're one of those boys. Yeah. No, we're not picking you up.
Yeah.
You keep walking, right? Yeah. And many times we went down the driveway, pissed off. I'm done. Take me back to jail. I don't want to do this. I remember one time I lost it. I felt like the staff were messing with me. Like I'd been there for 10 months. They didn't give me my transition. I'm just like living these feelings. I had these keys when you're upper in this program, it's called the chief. And you had these keys that essentially has the locks to all the rooms. I threw the keys and I fucking got my stuff and I went down the driveway and they let me walk, man. It's pouring, just pouring. Oh man, I was so pissed. And eventually I got so cold. I was like, it's Canada, man.
Yeah, dude.
You picked the wrong month to go and run away. You're turning around. You're going to be like, oh, we'll wait a few more months. It is too cold. And I came back, man. And it was just a special place. One of the cool things about it is that all the staff are ex-drug addicts.
Oh, wow.
What a fucking beautiful place.
Wow.
I needed that.
They get you.
I wouldn't listen to anybody else.
Yeah.
Guess what I learned at 16, 17? Get advice from people who've been there before.
Yeah.
How's that helped me in my business? It's been everything. It's literally been everything. I didn't know at the time. I did 11 months of one of the most beautiful personal development programs ever created. No clue. I come out and I've got an EQ that is off the charts. I'm talking to adults and I'm looking at them in the eyes, and because like one of the other stuff is every cleanup, you had to share your personal story. So imagine I'm there with 48 other kids and I'm hearing this story and that story and watching how they react. So I just learned a lot about behavior and mindsets and reaction. And what happened was so I did 11 months. I'm up for transition. They finally gave it to me. They wanted me to go through it. So I was just beautiful. Staff knew exactly what I needed. And I ended up staying the summer working with Rick, the maintenance guy. So like every once in a while, if you didn't want to go back home yet, but you wanted to be around it, but you're still out, you could do like this work program. So I did a work program with Rick, and man, we built the new school. He let me drive a backhoe. I almost put it right into the school. Like, dude, it's so stupid. He's like, hey man, see that pile of dirt? You got to move it from there to there. He didn't even tell me how to use the machine. And I almost put the backhoe right into the new school we just built. So I had a blast that summer. Listen to Dixie Chicks. Rick loved Dixie Chicks.
Oh, hell
Wide
yeah.
Open Spaces, man. He would just play it on repeat. Like the cassette, play, Dixie Chick, flip it around, play. And Rick was like a massive, like just man's man. So I didn't tell him about his music choices. But I was helping him clean out one of the cabins. It was on property because it was built in an old church camp. And we'd never been in there. And, there's a bunch of stuff, old weight rooms and desks and stuff. In one of the rooms, I open up the door and there's this old computer just sitting there on the desk. And next to it was this yellow book on Java programming, this programming language. Never knew anything about programming, didn't have a computer growing up. And just opened up the book and it spoke to me. It read like English. I thought computers would be like weird code, like hieroglyphics, like software, ones and zeros. And it read like if this, then that. And I just start the computer up and start typing into the thing, literally just follow chapter 1. And within 20 minutes, I got the computer to say, hello world. It printed it off. And there was just something about that. And I was like, oh, what else can we do? And I became obsessed. I don't know why, but I remember talking to my dad because I had 2 passions. One was botany. I used to grow weed. Lots of weed. Yeah. My dad. So I didn't want to grow weed, but I was like, I could really get into plants.
Yeah.
Or computer programming. And my dad goes, remember he said, you could always have a garden as a hobby. This is 97. Say, I know.
Buddy, wow.
I get out and I discover this little thing called the internet.
Yeah.
That's been my life ever since. Built and sold multiple software companies, invested in over 100 software companies. Today I buy a software company a month. It doesn't even make sense. Like if people heard that story, they're like, bullshit. Sam's been to Portage dozens of times. He's been to the room where the computer was. I have pictures with Rick. Rick tells the story. I mean, but it didn't look like that when I got out. It's just like Dan's sober now. Cool. He likes to play with computers. Yeah. Fun. I went 7 years failing as a business person. And I'm talking like not a side hustle, all in, like waking up every day, trying to build stuff people would buy, like playing internet stuff, tech startup crash 2001.
Oh shit.
Yeah. My dad's like, oh, maybe you should get a normal job. I'm like, I can't do it. I need to so as crazy as I just see people all the time, they expect things to work right out of the gate. And I just got taught these beautiful lessons earlier on. Like I just show up and I'm willing to show up I will show up for 10 years and not see any result. I just trust. I trust the process. I trust the destination. And I know why I do what I do. So it's not even about where I'm going to end up. It's who I get to become in that journey. So that's my story. It's just allowing myself to be obsessed about something that was positive. My dad always said, Dan, if you could just find something that's not illegal, I think you'd do pretty good with your life. Because he just saw like when I started doing stuff, I would go all in. Yeah.
Ooh. So interesting. You say, failing, as you know, I hope it's evident to people, but that's the journey. That's where you build your life experience and learn for the next endeavor in whatever that is. And, again, I think it's so easy to put a number or some other very arbitrary kind of component to what success looks like in a particular business that we're starting. But I think I've done a lot of investing. I was a trader in Chicago for almost 20 years. Along the way, have done a lot of seed investing and the like. And boy, I spent a lot of money on that education early on. And I was making a lot of the same mistakes. And it wasn't until 4 or 5 years ago that the lights really started to, I was a slow learner, I guess, but it's really, for me, people always talk about you invest in people and not ideas. And it's like, I finally learned that if you have the right team, they'll solve for anything. But if you have a great idea and that team is lacking, I mean, I have so many of those that.
Dude, this is like, yesterday I'm having a chat on Instagram with a woman. She's from Austria. She goes, I have $3 billion ideas. And I'm like, good for you. She's like, if you sign an NDA, I'll share them with you. I go, I'm good. And she's like, and dude, I'm not even like the delusion. It was fascinating to me. I was like, I want to invite you to consider a completely different perspective. One where there are literally 5 teams on each one of those ideas executing right now. They're probably in Y Combinator. You never heard of them. And they're going to kick your butt just because you are so slow. Because you're asking me to sign an NDA? Like, who cares? And 3 ideas? How about pick one? Like, you right off the bat, you're telling me you don't know what you're doing. So that's one. And then the other side is when you talk about people, right? Ideas versus people. I did 2 investments this week. Okay. I wrote checks. If I showed you the text message, it's literally, hey, dude, I'm doing a new startup. Me and my previous co-founder doing a small, we're doing a small round, friends and family interested. My reply, I'm in. He's like, well, we're only doing a little and the max investment's 25K. How much you want to do? 25K. Cool. Thanks. Let's crush it. That was the text messages. Yes. I mean, because it's a person bet. Another one came in, my buddy Sean. Hey man, I'm doing this deal. It is hilarious. That one's hilarious because he goes, I'm doing this deal because I've been wanting to invest with him because they do consumer stuff, right? I want to build a little portfolio of things. He invested in Oura Ring. He invested in Magic Spoon protein.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I'm like, dude, I want in on that stuff. So he goes, hey, I'm doing this deal. We're in, blah, blah, blah. You want in? I said, yeah, I'm in. So get him. And so we signed the paperwork, wire the money. And then he goes, oh, this is going to be awesome. And he sends me the link to the company. It's a water filter company. I just did a reel about how I purposely drink normal tap water. I started laughing and Sam's like, what? I go, dude, you wouldn't even believe what I just invested in. He's like, what? I said a water filtration company. I said, okay, I'm going to start drinking filtered water. Yes. But the world is just awesome. But those are people bets.
Yeah.
The ideas are so nothing. They're just like
they're nothing.
No, because as you said, I believe in universal consciousness. I believe in the universal mind. I believe in, Elizabeth Gilbert wrote a beautiful book called Big Magic, right? There's these ideas floating around, right? This is a cool one for people to consider. Your first thought is not your thought. Second one is. That's cool, eh?
Wow.
Ooh.
Wait, unpack that for me.
Your first thought is not your thought.
Yeah.
You're driving down the street and you have a thought. Did you think about having that thought? Nope.
And when you
second thought.
Yeah, which was thinking about the thing.
No, you don't. Yeah. So it's like, I think.
Oh, I see. And then you take it from
You decide.
there.
You decide. So when she's like, I got $3 billion ideas, I go, cool. There's 27 other people that had those exact same ideas.
Yeah.
And they're executing. And then that's how the world works. It will present you ideas. We've all had $1 billion ideas. We just dismissed them, right? We didn't want to pursue them. This is another one. Fear makes bad decisions. Fear makes bad decisions. So in those moments, we're not who we need to become to actually execute against that idea. So we use fear. Like, I could never do that. What would people think? I don't do it. Then you're watching Shark Tank. You're like, I had that idea. I can't believe it. You see it all the time. It's happened to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I worked on that, or I didn't push it, or I thought of that, or I talked to a guy and we were going to do that, but then I was worried about him. So I decided to not do it. I mean, that's why I wish people would understand that all the stuff they want is on the other side of them connecting with that, right? Your frequency is what you frequently see. Your frequency. So this is what I was telling.
I have not heard that one before.
Dude, it's everything. That's why, that's why like
so
there's no place to get to. I can live in that frequency today, and then I get to see the world that way. So a lot of people, the world is not as it is, it's as you are. So I can go through the world and be grumpy and angry and see everything wrong and just say the world is bad. And I can find 100 examples today. I can walk around, I can look out, I can be like, oh, that's happening. I saw a homeless person. The world is evil. Or I can go, the world is a beautiful place full of creativity and abundance. And then I could find examples of that. That's what I mean when I say that your frequency is what you frequently see. Your energetic state of how you show up, right? It's like, you ever meet a buddy and they're like, I need to find a new partner in life. They're like, what do you want? Make a list. And they go, hot, athletic, entrepreneurial, funny. And then you're like, cool. how many of those things are you? And they're like, it's like, dude, you won't attract that if you aren't that.
Yeah.
So you got to go ask yourself, how funny are you? And dude, you're not athletic. Look at this. You just pitch it. It's like, no. So I think that's the big idea, is that if you believe that there's this beautiful world out there that's going to support and that's where alignment matters, creativity matters, right? You got to create from the right place. It will show up. That frequency is what you will frequently see. Everybody else goes through the world, and honestly, they're not connected. They're not awoke. They're not woken up. They're just walking generalities. Right.
Well, I've heard you speak about this in the past, but this idea of wanting something versus actually believing that you deserve the thing.
Dude, it's everything. So good. So I do leadership training every Monday to my media team. So I really love pouring in these guys, a bunch of 20-year-old buff dudes. And they all look like that too. Well, I mean, both of them, there's more. God. There's more. Oh yeah. One of them, we're funding his food intake for Mr. Olympia. Like we have a whole fridge. Yeah. It's again, belief. Yeah. So I'm teaching them this concept about, frequency and energy and how we attract and how we create call it what you want, but it's just like, at the end of the day, do you have 100% clarity? Do you have 100% belief? And can you hold that 100% of the time? And one of the guys, Jay, goes, I hear what you're saying, man, but like, I'm 5'10". You're telling me if I believe I could be 5'2", that I can make it happen? I said, no, Jay, because you don't believe it. And he goes, oh, you're right. I go, dude, you don't believe it. You will never be 6'2". You're 5'10". You'll never be 6'2". He goes, you're right. I don't believe it. I said, do you believe it? No, I don't believe it. Perfect. You don't believe it. See, if you truly wanted that, I would hold that belief so true and don't worry about timelines. And I think magically, personally, I believe if it was meant to be, there will be a magic surgery that happens to show up that makes it that if you want to be 6'2", you could. And in that moment, you will go, oh shit, it worked. That's how it works. You have to believe the truth. And be okay that it may never come true, but you have to believe you could do it and that it's happened. I mean, all we're doing is we're becoming the person that attracts into our lives that future. Like, we don't want to freak people out, but like, it's all now.
Yeah, freak them out. That's okay.
It's all now, dude. Yeah. Like anybody's like, oh, it used to be this way. It's going to be that. There's a here and now. And you just don't realize it because you have memory and you think that there's a tomorrow and a yesterday. Right? No, it's all happening right now in real time.
Oof. I've heard that a lot of times, but for some reason that time,
this house, man,
it just landed like, house. Holy fuck,
beautiful.
Super, yeah, no, it is.
You can feel the energy. It's like, and that's why I can, when I work with people, that is one of the core tenets of what I teach is the ability to have 100% clarity, 100% belief, 100% of the time. And we just hold it as a truth. And then let it go. Because it don't matter. There's no place to get to.
That's the other part. It don't matter.
It don't matter.
I think we put so much stock in everything mattering so much.
Yep.
And there's an element of it. It matters. And then it just doesn't.
For most people, the mattering is a response to I'm not enough.
Yes.
That's the unfortunate. It's the desire is to fill a hole that is called I'm not enough. If you become enough, that's a cool place. That's a cool place to create from. I think that great artists create art for themselves. Some people call that selfish. I call that the only way you should create art. Is when you try to get in a committee and what were people gonna like? It's like, what do you want? What do you feel called to create? Like Oliver Anthony. You know Oliver Anthony? Richmond, north of Richmond, the song. Richmond,
the guy.
Yes, the red beard, okay?
Yeah.
Most people heard the song. Richmond, north of Richmond. Okay. My kids would sing it to you word for word because I just overplayed it in the car because I keep telling the story of Oliver Anthony. The story is this. He's a 35-year-old male living in, the Bible Belt in southern wherever. And he's a drunk and he drives a old car that barely runs and he's working in a dead end job. And he's just fed up with himself. And he decides, I'm going to quit drinking. And I'm going to give my life to God. And he said, I decided to stop making it about myself and start making it about other people. Yeah, nothing. He lived in a trailer. And God gave him a song called Richmond, North of Richmond. And somebody with an old Samsung phone recorded him playing it in the woods at a party and posted it on TikTok. It became the #1 song in the USA. He was the first artist not signed to a label to ever reach #1 Billboard charts in the history of the world. You want to tell me that you're not one idea away from that magical future? You don't understand how this thing works. I look at Oliver Anthony and I go, of course. He goes on Joe Rogan. Let's see. He's making it.
I was just going to say, I saw him. I had gone down to the mothership.
Yes.
And I was going through the green room. Shout out Ron White, good friend who got me in there. And I saw that kid sitting there
Oliver Anthony
with Joe and everybody.
Do you realize how crazy that is to him? Do you realize he's like, what is my life? But he honors it. He says, I don't want you to sell tickets that are more than $75. I don't want to sign a $6 million deal and not make the art for myself. He says, I'm not doing it. That's not why I'm here, and I'm not going to do that. And I have no doubt he's going to live and have the most beautiful career ever because he's operating from that place, blissfully dissatisfied. He didn't decide, I wrote a song, I'm going to do nothing. No, I'm going to create my art. He's an artist that makes art for himself first and foremost because he understands when he connects to that spirit, that's what creates that future. But he's one of so many people like that. Those examples are all around us. They just look different.
I think we're so used to looking at it through the lens of him signing the deal.
Step 2, step 3, step 4, an artist relation, this guy and our person.
How could he do that? It's like almost when Chappelle, had the hugely successful show and then he's like, I'm not, here's your $50 million back.
I want to do that. Africa. That's not what speaks to my heart. I'm not doing it. And we're surprised he's the GOAT. No, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
He created the comedy for himself. And when everybody was wanting to cut him down, shut him down, cancel him, he said, you guys better hold on to your, I ain't stopping.
Yeah.
This is who I am. Dude, I think he was indoctrinated into one of the, I think it was at his old school. Like he went to this art school and it was a speech he was given there. And it was just awesome. But that's the belief I have. Like that every person, I don't care who you are, in the right context, in the right alignment, in the right frequency, you are at least available to be given something that could change fundamentally your life forever. Every person. It could be a song, it could be a book, it could be a tweet, it could be a viral TikTok video, it could be a comedy set, it could be anything. It could be a person. It could be an introduction to a person. It makes no sense. It could be a Brian.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a relationship with Brian today?
So yes and no. So I found Brian. It turns out it's quite hard to get in touch with an old prison guard. Turns out. Anybody surprised? Yeah. Anybody surprised? Like, yeah. So it took me 6 years. I had to convince Mary Ellen. So she was a caseworker who knew who he was. And eventually after I showed her, Dan's sober, he stayed sober, he's out of the shit, right? Because never know.
Yeah.
It could change. I finally got to meet him. Brian didn't remember that conversation.
Wow.
Brian had that conversation with a lot of people.
Yeah, that's amazing, of course.
Fucking just love that. I love that.
Just like Judge McKee.
Just love it.
I wonder, how old are your boys?
10 and 11.
Yeah, so they're not getting in a lot of trouble nowadays.
If they did, I'd love it and I'd hold space for it.
Yeah, because I wonder if, as they grow older, if a bit of that Judge McKee tough love comes out.
It's there. I will tell you, we actually do a lot of work with our boys. Like I'm very intentional. I'm intentional my whole life.
Not surprised.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. My buddy Noah this morning goes, "Hey, you ever do therapy?" I was like, "Could you shut up, dude? Seriously?" I was like, "What are you talking about? I have like 5 therapists. Like I what do you want to call a therapist? I got a spiritual coach. I got a family coach. I got like we want to live." And so like my oldest does have moments where he gets emotionally flooded.
Yeah.
And I'm there for it. His pain body comes in and works at him. And one time, the first time I remember it was, Sam was there actually. I'll tell you the story. This is one of the most beautiful moments I've ever had with my son. We're playing hockey. My dad bought my son Max it wasn't even a GoPro. My dad's awesome, but he's a little cheap. So it was like a Costco GoPro knockoff. Like, dude, the fact that this thing even recorded was impressive. This is like 2 years ago. Okay. And he sets it up. We're playing, we play some serious indoor, hockey, but it's with soft sticks. And
hell yes.
I'm talking like when we hit.
Are you guys on your knees or are you standing up?
No, we don't have to go on our knees, but it's aggressive. Okay. Yeah. But we're like recording all this stuff. So Max gets set up and he wants to record because he wants to start editing his little videos. And his brother does something and knocks the camera over. So he didn't get the shot and he just loses it. And he wants to go after his brother. And I'm like, dude, you can't do that. You can't hit him. And he just screams. Okay. And it's Sam, it's my two boys and Sam and I. And I was like, buddy, just take some space, man. And he just freaks out and he's screaming and it goes through him. And it's not the first time we've seen it happen before, but this time it was like really there. And he starts crying and I used to do that as a kid. I would get so upset, so emotionally, like couldn't control myself, screaming, just congested, it's just this weird, and it's like, it's wrong, but you can't stop it. But it's like this anger. Anyways, he goes up to his room and I like, wait, but it's like, it doesn't stop and I can hear him. And I go up and he's like rolling on the ground and he's just full of anger. And I just sat there, just hold space. I don't do the whole, like, you shouldn't feel that way thing. I don't do that. And I said, I'm here for you. I love you. And he's just like, and he's just going and going. And then finally it just felt called me. I said, hey man, I think we should just let it out. He's like, I don't even know what that means. I don't want to do it. I was like, I'm going to go first. I don't want to scare you. But we're going to scream. We're just going to let it out. We're just going to feel it. And he's just on the ground. He's freaking out. He's screaming. And I went, if you've ever done primal screaming, and it was almost like it got him and it like went through him and he just looked at me. That scared me. I go, I know, buddy. I said, now it's your turn. And he just let it out. It was like I could feel it and I was there for it. And afterwards, he's just like, I can't even breathe, right? He can't even catch his breath. I said, just breathe, buddy. I said, you good? He goes, yeah. I said, cool. Do you need a few minutes? He goes, yeah. I said, all right, we'll go downstairs. Come down when you're ready. And I went down and Sam was down there playing. He's just like, what happened? I said, we're good. That was the moment I realized that I was meant to be Max's dad. And I love that. I love that for him. I love that for us. I love that for me. So I get it. Parents have issues with kids and they go through tough times, but I just think that our kids are there to teach us. And I am a student and I will do the work and they might go and get in trouble. I don't know. But if they do, that's cool. Like I'll just be there for it. And it's going to be what's going to be. And I'm just really glad. I remember talking to my dad. He said, he's always, how are the kids? I said, Dad, we're doing some cool stuff. And he feels bad. He goes, I wish we had that stuff when we were younger. I said, Dad, you did exactly what you could do with what you knew at the time. I love you. I am who I am because of who you were. Thank you. Like I tell my mom all the time, like she feels so bad. I'm like, Mom, I wouldn't be who I am. I love me. Like, thank you. Like, what are we talking about? Like, I can tell you this, and this shaped me. Yeah. And had I not gone through that, there's no Dan that's doing what he's doing today. Right? There's just no way that I would have went through what I had to go through to have to do the work. So I'm so good.
Thanks for sharing that story about Max. It's one one of the things that my wife has always kind of said with our kids, we have 2 boys and a girl, but just, he's not giving you a hard time. He's having a hard time.
Yeah. Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body.
Yeah.
And it's just, it goes through him. He just needs to understand that's not who he is.
So we're at the end of our time. You're a busy man.
It's been awesome.
We didn't talk about the book, but we absolutely talked about the book.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
Instagram is my favorite. As you mentioned, Instagram, Dan Martell, 2 L's of Martell on Instagram. Follow me. Let me know that you connected through Cal. I'd love to chat and just be of help. That's it. I'm just here to serve. Some people are like, is this really Dan? Yeah, this is really Dan. Like, stop asking me. It's me. I love it.
I told you, I don't know if I said this before we started recording, but your Instagram game, and thanks to Sam and the team, is phenomenal.
Thank you.
Like, there aren't a lot of good follows. There are a lot of great meme follows out there.
Yeah, some funny stuff.
Your content is amazing, and it's a great centering piece for anyone who's just curious about life in general. There are a lot of beautiful principles in there. So thanks for all the work you guys are doing, and you have to get your ass back here because I've got about 1,000 other questions.
Anytime, man.
You're the best, man.
Thank you, Cal.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Yeah.
Cheers.